Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's there's a place for that record. It's got some riffs. It's a good record. Tony Urban's a freaking legendary character.
And the record that they did after that, like I'm just saying that was a very face value were a very unique band. I mean, what?
That's there's bands like that. Like I would definitely try to do the Vision record if I can. The one that was on Big Frank's label. And
would that be easy to get?
Yeah, because the band owns it. Frank doesn't own it.
Okay.
I mean, so just so you understand, the 101 of ownership of these masters from where I sit, and I think I'm pretty well versed in it now. There's no contract. It's whoever paid for the recording owns that master. So that's one. If there is a contract, you got to go by the contract. If there's a thing where the band paid for their master and then gave it to someone to put out and whatever, then the band owns that master. It's whoever paid for the recording. Whoever could show that receipt owns it. Unless there's some other agreement that's precedes it. But like that's where we get into trouble because a lot of these labels, I'm not going to name names, but a lot of labels are like, oh, cool, those are on my label. And I'm like, well, yeah, they were on your label, and we'll honor your label in the packaging with logos and stuff. And you can definitely be part of the process. But the band actually owns the master because not only did you not pay for the recording, you never paid anyone royalties, so you've never paid anyone for anything. So legally, you actually owe them money. It's the whole thing. And that happens a lot with some of the labels, especially the labels later on in life, like the early labels, especially BYO. BYO had contracts for everything. SST, for better or for worse, they had contracts for everything. Discord doesn't do contracts, but it's Imakai. So Imakai sits in a very advantageous position where it's like, hey, I want to put out your record. It's 50-50. Here you go. And everyone's like, great.
Well, then, how many bands or people that actually paid for their recordings do you find? I mean, and you were maybe just using a figure of speech, but how many of them actually have like a receipt of we paid for this?
They don't. But the point is like, dude, what we're talking. I mean, we're so down in the weeds with this. You're talking about records that didn't sell a lot. That like there'd be no reason to go to court over it.
Right.
Like if I was a label and like say some band went put out their record through trust and I had no contracts and no receipts, I wouldn't go to court. I'd just be throwing money away.
Right.
And then like we're not, and that's the thing. I mean, it goes back to the CroMags profile thing. Like we're not looking to be in those positions of dispute at all. Like so, if we put something out, like the dispute's already been settled. So like there's certain records I've chased where I'm like, and these examples I've given you about master ownership. The other day, like I'm not the one to make the call. At some point, the band and the label go, hey, you should put it out. You know what I mean? Like, because I can't, like, we're not pirates. And we're actually, at the end of the day, we're friends with everything. And I also don't want to allude to, like, I'm talking about Nemesis, because that's not what I was talking about.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, I would love, there's Reason to Believe's record, and that Vision record that was on Nemesis. Those are two records that are kind of newer, that aren't probably considered, like, classics. They're not Gorilla Biscuit Start Today. But those are records I think we should celebrate. I got in my head that at some point we're going to do Reason to Believe's record, and we're going to get this John Bunch documentary that was sort of filmed at his memorial, and we're going to repurpose all this and celebrate John on his birthday probably in 2024 with Reason to Believe, documentary, John Bunch love. You know what I mean? Because that's the point of the label.
That is kind of going into my last question. Where do you see this in 5 years? Like, or where would you like to be with Trust in 5 years?
5 years from now, we should be humming. We should be, like, I have the Trust headquarters down in Santa Ana. That thing should be, I do a merch business too. I split the merch business with the Trust in that warehouse. In 5 years, that warehouse better be all Trust. And it better be humming with a staff. We should have a sales staff, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it should be, when I say a real label, I mean, like, right now it's me. I have a couple warehouse workers that I personally pay. The label doesn't pay for, but I personally pay them to help me. And at some point, I'd like there to be that staff, 6, a controller, warehouse staff, e-com guy, all in-house, all working on Trust. And the thing is like, if we could just have more bodies helping us and stuff, and we could have that, we could do so much more. Because just right now, it's just like, it's so thin. We got this freelancing. Everyone's freelance.
Right.
And that's like, as a freelancer, I don't know if you've ever done that type of work. You got good freelancers and you got bad freelancers. At the end of the day, like, you're not paying these dudes enough money. Like, you're trying to pay them enough that's worth their time, but to them, it's just barely worth their time. It's just like there's a dollar amount that's just enough worth their time and just comfortable enough for you to pay it. So you're just still in this no man's land of like, they don't feel like they're being paid enough, and that's where we're at. I think in 5 years by then we would have 50 records at least under our belt. We'd be doing all kinds of digital streaming. We'd have our own platforms, maybe like there'd be our own YouTube channel with all kinds of content that we're curating. We'd be doing curated events with bands. We do this Trust fanzine. Maybe that's a quarterly magazine that comes to subscribers. There's a vinyl club where you can, that was something we talked about at the beginning of Trust. It's like, we'll do a vinyl club. Like, thank God we didn't set it up. It was my idea. I know I would look like an idiot because you're just paying in and not getting any records for, So our idea was like, there'd be a vinyl club. You get like a certain gold variant, or you get your variant, and you get 4 or 6 records a year, depending on, what it is. And so there'd be all that stuff. There'd be like, like right now, like I think our newsletter mailing list is about 2,000 people. I want that in 5 years to be 100,000 people plus, because that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for Trust, like the brand. In 5 years, I'm looking for people that, that's Trust Records. They do all kinds of cool shit. They do like curate fun events. They have cool merchandising. They do all kinds of cool stuff, cool video content. They produce documentaries. We've been talking about that. And they also sell hardcore records.
What?
So
well, I was going to say, what has to, in your mind, what would have to happen to make that happen? Would it just have to continually be?
It's got to continue growing. Like, we're small. We've been taking slow steps, but I think they're all the right steps. I feel like we do cool stuff. I think our fans. I was looking at our second. We've done 2 now. I was reading the second one yesterday. I was like, this thing's really cool, man. Like, if someone bought this, it's like, it's interesting. There's some interesting stuff. It looks cool. It's very pro. Like, that's the thing about our label. It's like everything's classy and pro and high end. It's not like we don't do junk, and that's got to stay. So the brand is like, I feel in 5 years will be associated with just quality and cool stuff and different kind of channels, a media channel, and like I said, like, like we've been talking to some people about these documentaries we want to produce and some heavy hitters, and like talking about this podcast with some people over at Spotify that would be like album deep dives and stuff. A lot of that would some of the ideas we have would actually have come to fruition beyond the track, and we would have, like I said, a real humming record label that's not just that, but also like I said, doing bigger stuff, doing media and live events, and just some place where the brand was like Trust Records is like, it's associated with just freaking fun, cool shit, and that benefits the bands. Because in my mind, the hardcore label will be this. It'll be the core, and it's what we do. All this stuff around it will be revenue generators and will help us like promote ourselves, but that'll just bring this up. It'll just help get these records up, and trying to connect to the younger kids, because this hardcore scene that's happening now is unbelievable, dude. Like, it's big or bigger than when we were kids, the hardcore scene. It is wild to see.